Good evening, everybody. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and I'm going to make this video tonight for my students because obviously there seems to be some kind of a communication problem between myself and my students, which I need to clear up. Okay? And this comes directly from one of my students who happens to have the username of Crazy Bad Puzzles. And after he wrote this comment to me, and I'm going to read it to you, then I had a conversation with him, and I promised him that I would fill him in on some of the details that apparently he does not have, which is causing him to misperceive all my videos. Alright, let's just get to the meat of the puzzle here. It says, "You are a cyberbully." Now notice here right off the bat, he misspells the word cyber. Okay? Now, I don't know whether he's using a smartphone and he just doesn't know how to type on it very well. That can happen. Okay? Maybe he's not using the proper type of stylus for the thing. I don't know, because I wasn't there when he typed this message out. I do know that when you are messing with smartphones, it is tough to type a message. That's why I don't use smartphones in the first place. I don't even use a tablet to type a response back to these people. As a matter of fact, what I actually use is a split key keyboard. And that is because your hands are actually angled like this. They're not out here like this. That's the bad thing with these typewriters and of course now computers. They have these keyboards that are adjusted like this instead of like this. And this is the way your hands really operate. So I use a split key keyboard. I do not use smartphones. And this is the reason why, because there are so many misspellings. And then you have to go proofread what you've actually typed before you send it off. And that gets downright aggravating. Now that's one possibility. The other one is maybe he doesn't know how to spell cyber, which is C-Y-B-E-R. I don't know. Okay? And that may be some of the problems with some of my other students. They're trying to type so fast on their smartphones that they don't proofread anything before they send it off. And of course, then I'm thinking they're a poor speller. And I'm not the only one that thinks things like this. Here's the problem. You keep doing that, and what happens is that employers read these messages. And then they also get the idea that you're a poor speller. They don't always take into account, because they're not so used to smartphones, and a lot of them aren't. They don't always take into account that when you're messing with a smartphone, you can misspell that way too. And that can be a problem. So that's one of the details you may not know. Yes, employers read messages like this, and then they get the idea that you can't spell. And that's not a good thing. But let's go on here. You are a cyberbully or cyberbully because in a lot of videos I've seen you have called people names, belittled them, and just put them down only because they didn't agree with what you had to say. Now here's the thing. It is not that I didn't agree with what they had to say. That's the problem. That's the misinterpretation. Okay? First of all, this is in relation to a video I made as a video response to how to disturb reality. Okay? Now then, when you watched his video initially, what you saw was a person having financial hard times, which I didn't doubt one bit. I know he's having financial hard times. Here's the difference. Okay? This is what I objected to. He was making it sound like he was going to be evicted from his house within a week. He was going to lose his phone, his car, everything. He was going to lose every one of his earthly possessions and be a homeless person within a week. And that's how that's how he sounded to me. That's when I objected. Why did I object? Okay. When I was a kid, I was not the healthiest kid, I was not the richest kid, and certainly I was one of the most bullied kids. Okay? There was more than one occasion when I honestly thought that I was going to be on the streets as a homeless person. Now this is when I was like 10, 12 years old. Thankfully that never happened. But my family went through a lot of financial hard times when I was a kid. And there was more than one occasion when I thought that I was going to be out in the streets. My dad ended up with a lower paying job. Medical bills came in. It was a nightmare. As a matter of fact, it got so bad for us that we actually had to go to the Salvation Army for a while, for a short period of time. And what we had to do was we had to buy these specialty boxes. Okay, now what they did was they put a month's it was an amount of food that you could eat in a month. It was prepared for a family of 4. And this family of 4 was supposed to be fed off this box of food for a month. And you paid $20 for it, okay? And you took it home, and you came back the next month for the next box. And for a short period of time, my family had to do this. Why? Because my father had a full-time job. It wasn't paying like it should have, but he had a full-time job. And as far as food stamps was concerned, we were rich. And that was bad. We couldn't even get on food stamps because they thought we were rich. To get on food stamps at that time, you really had to be destitute. I'm not kidding you. Okay? When I was a kid, we never dialed long distance. That was unheard of. You dialed long distance, that cost you an arm, leg, hand, and foot. You just didn't do it. So if your friends moved away and you wanted to contact them, that was it. You couldn't do it. You didn't have emails back at that time. And the phone bills just got more and more expensive. There was times when I thought we wouldn't have a phone anymore. Even today, I meet people all the time that the only way they access the internet is either through their smartphones, which they really can't afford, or they have to go to the library and access the internet from there. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, I've had people wonder if they were going to have electricity in their house the next day. I've met families like that. Number 3, I've met people that they had to move from a big fancy home to a one-room apartment or to a mobile home because they simply couldn't afford the big house anymore. I've met families like that. I've met people that were getting foreclosure notices. They couldn't pay the mortgage anymore. I have personally met families that didn't know how they were going to get medical treatment for their kids because they couldn't afford it. Medical bills stacked up. They didn't know how they were going to pay for it, especially on a minimum wage job. For those kind of people, when they hear of How to Disturb Reality's problems, they're sitting there going, "Are you kidding me? We got problems far worse than this kid." How to Disturb Reality has 50,000 followers. That's far more than even what I have. And he's standing there telling us that he may be facing eviction and starvation. Listen to his presentation a little more carefully. He doesn't say that he's got his car repossessed, that he's about to move into a one-room apartment because that's all he can afford. He's going to the Salvation Army and getting food boxes that are supposed to feed him for a month. He's not telling people he's on food stamps, that the only way he can access the internet is from the library. He can't afford his phone. He's not telling people things like that. If he'd have mentioned any of that stuff, I'd have had a lot more sympathy for him. It's that simple. Do you understand now why I objected to his video? I read stories like this, and I have personally met people like this all over where I'm at. All you have to do is go on Facebook and find the Northeast Community Fund, and you will find story after story after story of people that are in far worse shape than How to Disturb Reality. And that was my point. So can you finally understand why I said what I said to How to Disturb Reality? I had a valid point. Pure and simple. And I think after clearly illustrating all the people that are in far worse shape than he is. Shoot, I've been watching these videos. He's still uploading videos. And I know how much bandwidth is required to upload videos like that. The fact of the matter is, even with all of his financial problems, and I understand his financial problems, I go through my own. But I know that I still have a house to live in. I still have food on my table. I can afford my medical bills. I can afford my car repairs. My car is not being repossessed. I have a lot to be thankful for. Do you know what? How to Disturb Reality did not mention one single thing in his video that he was still thankful for. He was still living in a house. He was still able to upload videos. He was still able to do a lot of stuff. He wasn't wearing Salvation Army clothes. I've worn those. Yeah, I've worn outfits bought from the Salvation Army and from Goodwill. That's the difference. So yes, I did have a legitimate right to object to his video. Even he himself said so. Now, had he gotten on that channel and said, hey, I'm going through some financial hard times, and I just wanted to comfort you people in letting you know that I'm not being evicted right now. I'm not facing a ton of medical bills. I'm not facing this. I'm not facing that. But yeah, it is a little bit of a struggle because of this company. I would have sympathized with him right off the bat. As a matter of fact, I did sympathize with him. If you watch my initial response to How to Disturb Reality, one of the first things that came out of my mouth was, I do sympathize. That company was ripping him off, and they had no right to do that to him. But on the other hand, he didn't have the right to stand there and present himself as though he was wearing Salvation Army clothes. He had to go to the Salvation Army to get his food, and that he was living in a one-room apartment with no internet access. That was just not the truth. Be truthful to what you're saying. That's what I was implying. Now I'm going to cut this particular video a little bit short because there are other videos that I'm going to go ahead and make. I'm going to fill you in on some other details that hopefully, as you begin to realize what's going on, you'll begin to realize what the real problem is. Alright? And I'm going to fill you in on all those other details. So I want you to stay tuned because I have more to say.